What do we see in the images here? Well, we see some metallic objects that have lost their appearance over time. So, what is happening here? Metals, when they are exposed to various atmospheric agents, so what do I mean when I say atmospheric agents? I mean nothing but the moisture that is present in the atmosphere or several gases that are present in the atmosphere. When these agents react with the surface of the metal, they produce some unwanted substances, and these substances change the appearance of the metal altogether. So the metal surface loses its shining surface and starts looking something very unpleasant. This is the phenomena of corrosion. Let's see the corrosion of some important metals like silver, copper, or iron. Let's start with the corrosion of silver. So, silver, it reacts with some atmospheric agent to form a black coating on it. What is this atmospheric agent? Well, for silver, it is hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide gas is present in the atmosphere, and when this reacts with our silver particles, they form a black coating. And what is this coating? This coating is nothing but silver sulfide. And we also get some hydrogen gas in this reaction. So that is why when silver articles are kept for a long time, they lose their shiny finish and develop a black coating on it. So shall we write the corresponding chemical reaction? We have silver, which is Ag. It reacts with hydrogen sulfide, H2S gas, and it gives silver sulfide plus hydrogen gas. So is this reaction balanced? Well, almost. I need to put a 2 over here. Let's write the states. This is solid, this is gas, this is solid, and H2 is a gas. The silver sulfide is black in color. Now, you must be wondering that silver is less reactive as compared to hydrogen. Silver comes below hydrogen in the reactivity series. So this looks like a single displacement reaction. How is silver able to displace hydrogen from silver sulfide even though silver is less reactive than hydrogen? Well, that's a very valid point. So the thing is that this poses an exception to the reactivity series because reactions not only depend on their reactivities but reactions also depend on the temperature conditions and they also depend on the activation energy required for the reaction. How much energy is required for the reaction to take place? So because of these factors, silver, although it is less reactive than hydrogen, it is able to displace hydrogen from H2S and form silver sulfide. So this was about the corrosion of silver. Just see the diagram here. So before corrosion, silver spoon was shiny. After corrosion, it has lost its shiny finish and it has developed some black tarnish on it or some black coating on it, which is of silver sulfide. Now let us see the corrosion of copper. What is the Statue of Liberty doing in corrosion of copper? Well, Statue of Liberty, when it was first built, it was made of copper and so it had a reddish brown color. It had a very shiny surface, reddish brown in color. But over time, it became bluish green in color. That is because copper was corroded by atmospheric agents and they formed a bluish green coating of basic copper carbonate. Basic copper carbonate. So that is why the statue became bluish green in color. So shall we write the corresponding reactions now? So we have copper. When copper reacts with the oxygen, carbon dioxide and moisture present in the atmosphere, it forms basic copper carbonate. Basic copper carbonate, the formula is, first we write copper carbonate dot copper hydroxide, CuOH whole twice. So this compound is bluish green in color. This is bluish green in color and it is known as basic copper carbonate. So this is responsible for the corrosion of copper. We have oxygen, CO2 and water which react with copper to form a bluish green coating of basic copper carbonate. Let's balance this reaction. I just need to write a 2 over here. Now let's see the corrosion of iron. Corrosion of iron costs millions of rupees to the governments all around the world every year, because every year all the infrastructure that has become corroded has to be replaced. So a lot of money is spent on this purpose. So let's see why is this process even taking place. We see an iron bar here. It was this grayish in color, which is the color of iron. But over time it developed this flaky reddish brown coating. This coating is known as rust and the corrosion of iron is known as rusting. So what is the corresponding chemical equation? We have iron. When it reacts with oxygen and moisture which is present in the atmosphere, it forms a reddish brown flaky substance which is called rust. So what is the formula of rust? Rust is hydrated ferric oxide. Ferric oxide would be Fe2O3 and it is hydrated. So there is some water of crystallization here, XH2O. This is the formula of rust. Well, X might look very peculiar, but don't get confused. It is just the water molecules that are attached to the ferric oxide molecule. Now can we balance this equation? Well, it looks like it's very tough to balance, no? But we'll try. Fe2. So let's write a 2 over here. What if I write X here? Yeah. And this oxygen has to be made 3. So it should be 3 by 2. This equation is balanced now. So this rust is reddish brown in color. This is how rusting or corrosion of iron takes place. Let's see an experimental setup that will help us to demonstrate the process of rusting of iron. So here I have taken 3 test tubes in which I have placed iron nails. Why 3? Let's see the basic setup. So in the first test tube, I have taken iron nail which is grey in color and I have filled the test tube with some distilled water. So distilled water has been boiled and distilled. It doesn't have any gases dissolved in it. And here we have on the top a layer of oil. So this oil layer will not allow any air to penetrate into this distilled water. So here this iron nail is subjected only to water. Now let's go to the second test tube. In the second test tube there is no water, there is no oil. Here we have placed some crystals of anhydrous calcium chloride. What does anhydrous calcium chloride do? Anhydrous calcium chloride, it absorbs any moisture that is present here. So here we have air which contains oxygen, but we do not have any type of moisture or water. And in the third test tube, we have kept the iron nail immersed in water only up to this height. So this is water, and this nail is subjected to water as well as air that is present in the test tube. When we leave this setup for say 2 to 3 days, we see that the color of the iron nail in the first and second test tube does not change. But in the third test tube, the part of the nail that was subjected to air and water as well, it has become reddish brown in color. It has developed a reddish brown coating, which is that of rust. So what can we conclude? We can conclude that both air as well as moisture are necessary for rusting to take place. If any one of them is present, rusting is not going to happen. So what are the conditions for rusting? We need air and we also need moisture. By air I mean oxygen. These are the two basic conditions for rusting. Now, there are various methods that can prevent rusting from taking place. They can control rusting. So let's see some of these methods now. Some of the methods for preventing corrosion are painting. You can apply paint on the metallic surface. We can apply some type of oil, which is oiling, also known as greasing. Or we can follow the process of anodizing, galvanizing. One very popular method is alloying. Form alloys. Another process is chrome plating. So these are some of the methods to prevent corrosion. We'll see these methods in greater detail when we study about various metals and non-metals. So this was all about corrosion of various metals.